We give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. And come on here, Pot. You sit right here. You said you're going to sit in there with your mama. You stay in there. Look here, Leah. You ready? And it says, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life. And they are they which testify of me. Very good. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and not the honor that comes from Elohim only? All right. All right. You keep it. All right. Now get over there and sit down, because all y'all can't sit up under this table. Leave Abigail alone. Exodus chapter 22. Just let Abigail just be Abigail. Go sit over there by Leah, Conrad. Go sit over there by Leah, Renee. She gonna come out from under there. You gotta sit down over there. Exodus chapter 22. We start that verse. We'll start at verse 18. Exodus 22 and 18. Now it says, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Now we're not going to go over this in great detail because we did it once before. But we will read where we got it from. Pause and go get Matthew chapter 6. Now y'all should know. Abigail. Why did you give it to her? Hey, she said Abigail just swallowed that coin. Why did y'all give it to her? Because y'all giving it to her. Stop. Why'd you give it to her? What it is? Matthew chapter 6. Or is it Matthew 7 I'm looking for? Matthew 7 and 6. It says, give not that which is Kadesh unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. So just to refresh y'all memory, and let me pull that Greek word up so you can know which word we're looking at, and I picked the wrong app for that. When we look at dogs, and that's the word in Greek that we're looking at. The word for dogs is a person of an impure mind or an imputed man, basically a stubborn man. And it tells you not to cast your pearls before them lest they rend you. So you're dealing with someone who is stubborn or rebellious. Now when you know that you're rebellious, that takes us back to 1 Samuel 15 and 23, where it tells you that rebellion is as witchcraft. It's as witchcraft. So to be a rebel is to be the same as a witch. See, sometimes we get stuck on the connotation of actually being a witch. And you're looking at sorcery, and you got some people that push that if you take pharmaceuticals, you're a sorcerer and all that type of stuff. Trying to be extra deep and just really find themselves to be out of pocket when they don't realize you a witch when you rebel against the word. And he said he can't give that which is Kadesh unto you. What is that which is Kadesh? Well, let's look and see. Romans 1 and 1. Just a recap, like I said, because we went through this in great detail once before, so we're not going to do it again, at least not right now. I think the video is named exactly what that verse is in Matthew 7 and 6. Because we need to get a understanding of what that meant at the time when we dealt with it, and we just refreshing your brain. When you are rebelling against the word, which means you're sinning willfully. Because to rebel, you have to consciously be aware of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You can't rebel in ignorance because you don't even know why you're rebelling. You know what I'm saying? But rebellion, you have to know. That's why I say you have a imputed mind, hard-hearted. See, hold on, since I mentioned that. Pause before we read Romans 1 and 1. Ezekiel chapter 2. Did she actually swallow that? I don't think she did. Because she would have choked. Corn ain't an easy thing to go down the windpipe. Ezekiel 2, probably about verse 3. If I can get around there, we can take off. Make sure, yeah. Ezekiel 2 and 3. Give me 1 second to pull the word up in Ezekiel, or to get to Ezekiel to pull the word up. All right. Ezekiel 2 and 3. And we still holding Romans 1 and 1. And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Yasharal, to a rebellious nation that have rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me, even unto this very day. For they are impudent children and stiff-hearted. I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim. So let's look at the Hebrew word for impudent, and let's see what we get from it. Because he said you're impudent children. That word for impudent is kashe, and that means to be hard, cruel, severe, obstinate, fierce, intense, difficult, stubborn, and stiff-necked, churlish, grievous, hard-hearted, stubborn people. So again, and also he told you that stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. It's iniquity, it's lawlessness and idolatry to be stubborn. Now we're going to sit back and we're going to look. He can't suffer a witch to live at this particular point in time. And we'll get to 1 Samuel 15 just on general principle. He can't allow you to live, which means he can't give you the gift of the Ruach if you continue to operate in this fashion. He said, don't give it to what's set apart underdogs. Don't give it to the stubborn. Which goes back to when he said, if a man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. Or if they reject your testimony, to dust your feet off on them. Let them have that. Because they stay hard, that won't allow them to receive it. And whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house, yet shall know that there have been a prophet among them. And thou, son of man, be not afraid of them, neither be afraid of their words, though briars and thorns be with thee. And thou dost well among scorpions. Be not afraid of their words, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious people. And thou shalt speak my words unto them, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are most rebellious. But thou, son of man, hear what I say unto thee. Be not thou rebellious like that rebellious house. Open thy mouth and eat that I give thee. And that's the key thing that you got to be able to sit back and understand is, come back to Ezekiel chapter 3 and verse 4. That you need to eat the word that he's given you, irregardless of how stubborn anybody is around you. That shouldn't have no bearing or no factor on anything that you do. And he said unto me, Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Yasharal, and speak with my words unto them. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of a hard language, but to the house of Yasharal. Not to many people of a strange speech and of a hard language, whose words thou cannot understand. Surely had I sent thee to them, they would have hearkened unto thee. But the house of Yasharal will not hearken unto thee, for they will not hearken unto me. For all the house of Yasharal are impudent and hard-hearted. Those are strong words from your Elohim right there. He said this whole people is stiff-necked and hard-hearted. You're a rebellious, stubborn people. Before we go to Romans 1 and 1, let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 9. Now, it's just something to consider. Since we picked up with thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, let's sit back and look at what he say about that. Because rebelliousness is a horrible thing. It's not a good thing to get you crossed up in the game. Deuteronomy 9 And verse 3. Understand therefore this day that Yahuwah thy Elohim is he which go over before thee, as a consuming fire he shall destroy them, and he shall bring them down before thy face. So shalt thou drive them out, and destroy them quickly, as Yahuwah hath said unto thee. Speak not thou in thy heart after that Yahuwah thy Elohim hath cast them out from before thee, saying, For my righteousness. This is what he says. Speak not thou in thy heart that after Yahuwah thy Elohim hath cast them out from before thee, saying, For my righteousness Yahuwah hath brought me in to possess this land, but for the wickedness of these nations Yahuwah doth drive them out from before thee. Not for thy righteousness or for the uprightness of thine heart dost thou go to possess their land, but for the wickedness of these nations Yahuwah thy Elohim doth drive them out from before thee, that he may perform the word which Yahuwah sware unto thy fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Understand therefore that Yahuwah thy Elohim give thee not this good land to possess it for thy righteousness, for thou art a stiff-necked people. Remember and forget not how thou provoked Yahuwah thy Elohim to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that thou did depart out of the land of Mizraim until you come into this place. You have been rebellious against Yahuwah. So we know what he said about those people who were rebellious. He swore in his wrath that they would not enter into his rest. So he did not suffer these witches to live. Let's look at 1 Samuel 15:23 before we proceed to go to Hebrews chapter 3. Make it 1 Samuel 15:20. And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of Yahuwah, and have gone the way which Yahuwah sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto Yahuwah thy Elohim at Gilgal. And Samuel said, Have Yahuwah as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Yahuwah? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. You know, and we talk about that during tabernacles. That faith come by hearing, and hearing come by the word. And in the greatest commandment given, you're told to hear. Hear with the intent to do, because the just live by their faith. So when you hear the word, like it said in Psalms, he said, as soon as they hear of me, they will submit unto me. So as soon as you heard the word of Yah, if you have a heart of faith, you would have submitted unto it. You would have relinquished your own will and caused the will of him. Let's look at that. Galatians chapter 2. Let's just look at that. Abigail, Dion, what are you doing? Come here, Abigail. Two and 20. Well, 2 and 19. Abigail, come here. For I through the Torah am dead to the Torah, that I might live under Elohim. For I am crucified with Mashiach. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Mashiach live in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of Elohim, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not frustrate the favor of Elohim, for if righteousness came by the Torah, then Mashiach is dead in vain. Now again, remember what he said. He said, not for your righteousness. We know from in Romans chapter 10, Paul made a simple statement that going about the set, he said they have a zeal for Elohim, but not according to knowledge. Going about the set about their own righteousness, they have not submitted themselves to the righteousness of Elohim. Genesis 15:6 show us what the righteousness of Elohim is to believe in him. This is the righteousness which was exhibited by the man whom he called his friend, our father Abraham. So when we turn around and we look to sit back and see how we can be deemed righteous, it's because of our unyielding faith and our humility to humble ourselves unto a word and to hearken unto him, and to not be stiff-necked and rebellious and hard-hearted, which will cause him to not allow you to live. Because remember what he said now, he that believe and liveth in me shall never taste death. Believe thou this? This is what the master said in the 11th chapter of John, by 25th verse. This is what he said. So that belief is going to bring forth the action which will be able to cause you to live. But unbelief or rebellion which is witchcraft, and stubbornness, which is idolatry. When you also look at the word pharmakia in the Greek, when it's dealing with sorcery, it also takes you to idolatry as well. We done went over that before. So a lot of dudes overlook the fact that that also means idolatry. So when we turn around with that, when we look at most sorcerers and witches and warlocks, they were worshiping false gods. So therefore, he cannot allow you to live. So when you look at this in the spiritual aspect, he cannot allow you to receive the Ruach. You will perish because you are a rebel. You are a rebel. And he despises you. And it is what it is. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry, because thou hast rejected the word of Yahuwah, he have also rejected thee from being king. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. So, let's turn around and look at Hebrews chapter 3 while we holding Romans 1 and 1. Hebrews 3. So you see this here right here? When you reject him, he will reject you. When you rebel against him, you should know this because we talked about this recently in the law in Leviticus 26. You walk contrary to him and he will walk contrary to you. It's as simple as that. Abigail. Come on. Hebrews 3 and about verse 12. Huh? You be alright. Take heed, brethren. Matter of fact, make it about verse 7. Wherefore, as the Ruach HaKodesh saith, today if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts as in the provocation in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation and said, they do always err in their heart. They have not known my ways. So I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief and departing from the living Elohim. But exhort one another daily while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. This is what he told them. The people who didn't get in was the people who rebelled. He said he swore on his name they wouldn't get in here. He swore on his name they wouldn't get in. And he's telling you that you ought to listen unless you have an evil heart of unbelief. Having an unbelieving heart is evil in the eyesight of Yah. That's the most evil thing you can do. A lot of us don't look at it this way because we look at murder, adultery, homosexuality, and idolatry as being evil, but we don't look at that heart of unbelief as being evil, because when you have an heart of unbelief, it's going to cause you to depart or separate yourself from Elohim. What causes you to be separate? Let's look at something. Praise the Lamb. Luke 16. We come right back to Hebrew 3. This is why he can't suffer a witch to live. Just going to look at the little parable, get a little understanding. 16 and 19. Luke 16 and 19. 16 and 19. Matter of fact, before we read Luke 16 and 19, Isaiah 59 and 1. Just for a little context of why we finna read Luke 16 and 19. Isaiah 59 and 1 and then Luke 16 and 19. That's why he can't suffer a witch to live now. That's all we like to see. That we focus on, then we run down some other precepts. It's Wednesday, so I don't want to try to jam too much in one sitting. Because we don't go too long. But y'all willing on Shabbat, we going to go a little longer. Go a little longer. You can't let them witches live. He ain't going to let you live. That's why it's a lot of stuff people ain't got no business fooling with. But people like to fool with stuff that they like to fool with. You know what I'm saying? People like to fool with stuff they like to fool with, but it is what it is. Behold, Yahuwah's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, neither is his ear heavy that it cannot hear. But your iniquities have separated between you and your Elohim, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear. So he say it's your sins that separate you from him, that he can't put his arm out there to save you, and it's your sins would cause him not to hear your cries. Now let's go look at Luke 16 and 19 now, and let's see what we get. There was a certain rich man, which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died, and was carried by the Malachim into Abraham's bosom. And the rich man also died, and was buried. And in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. Now see, there's a reason like this here, right? Y'all remember what Abraham's name mean, right?
Exalted Father.
Exalted Father. So he's seen him in his bosom. Remember that the Master made a statement in this same book of Luke, talking about how he wanted to gather Yasharal into his bosom. You know what I'm saying? Which takes us to another instance of where you sit back and you see that disciple laying in the Master's bosom, because this is a place of safety. Just keep that in mind while I mention that. He said, and he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember thou in thy lifetime received thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. Pause. Hold Luke 16 and let's swing to James. Now let me tell y'all something, right? Being rich does not mean that you're going to hell. I know some people teach that, tell people that being rich also don't mean that you're righteous. You know what I'm saying? Don't mean that. So it wasn't the fact that this man was rich, because after we read the James 5, we're going to read 1 Timothy chapter 6. It wasn't that he was rich that he went to hell. See, let me pull the word up where he said he dealt sumptuously. Because that means he was chilling. He was making it do what it do. He was having a good old time. He was having a good old time. Hold on, man. My app tripping. Now let's look at that the Greek word, I should say, my apologies, for sumptuously in this particular passage. And let's see how he was living. Because he said he fared sumptuously every day. And that word is lampros. They say he lived magnificently. He lived luxuriously. He lived great. Had a great time. Life was good. But let's see how it ended for him. James 5 and 1. He said, Go now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. You have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers who reap down your fields, which is of you, kept back by fraud, cry. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the master of Shabbaoth. You have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. You have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. See, so now when we turn back and look at it and see, you can see that what this rich man, and 9 times out of 10, it's referring to, you can use this for an example, what we're looking at in Luke. He defrauded people. We talked about this last week or the week before, that he's an avenger of those who defraud another. We went through that when we were looking at the laws of restitution about defrauding people. Yahuwah is not with people defrauding people. So you got your riches not by right. See, the book say riches got by sin ain't what it do. Hold on, let me pull that verse up for you. You got to get that verse. Go to Proverbs real fast. You don't want to get wealth by wrong, and also Jeremiah 17. Yeah, you don't want to get wealth by wrong, because wealth by wrong ain't going to do you no good. Get your Proverbs 13 and 11. Proverbs 13 and 11. See, that's what a lot of people sit back and look at. It ain't the fact that you got riches, it's how did you get them. Because a lot of time people get stuff and they get it in the wrong fashion. They don't get it right. They don't get it in the right. So we want Jeremiah 17 and about 11, Proverbs 13 and 11, and also Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 28. And Proverbs 22:1. And we still hold in 1 Timothy 6:6. But let's look at Proverbs 13 and 11. Proverbs 13 and 11 first. I guess we'll hit all the ones in Proverbs because they're right by each other. Get a little understanding on it. Proverbs 13 and 11. It said, wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gather by labor shall increase. So if you get wealth that's gotten by worthlessness, and we know that sin is vanity and all of these things, that will be diminished. It's going to be diminished at your latter end. Because see, Psalms 49 tell you about how riches can't get you to redeem your brother. Because the book already tell you weren't redeemed by corruptible things as silver and gold from the vain behavior of your fathers. You weren't redeemed from that. You were redeemed by the precious blood of the Lamb. That's what bought you. That's what bought you out of Mizraim was blood, not money. Just consider Proverbs 11 and 28. This is the next thing he tell you, right? He that trust in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. And that's what happens with a lot of people, is that they trust in the money. Like it's right. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to have nice things, wanting to increase your economic situation. But it begins to when you trust in it. Matter of fact, Proverbs 23 and 1. It begins to when you trust in that. And that's what happens with a lot of people. Actually, Proverbs 23 and 4. We still hold a Luke 16, 1 Timothy chapter 6, Jeremiah 17. He said, labor not to be rich, cease from thy own wisdom. Wilt thou set thy eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings, and they fly away as the eagle toward Shamahim. And what that take us to is, you know, in Samuel, he tell you that he got the power to make a man rich, to take you from the dunghill and set you amongst kings. The law tell you that it's Yahuwah that give you power to get wealth. And that's the part that you have to remember. It's Elohim that increases and decreases. So therefore, you don't want to set your eyes or your heart upon that, as that's your end all be all. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people do that. But also, let's look at Jeremiah 17. And 9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yahuwah, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. As the partridge sit on eggs and hatch them not, so he that get riches and not by right shall leave them in the midst of his days, and at his end shall be a fool. So he say, if you get riches but not by right, what good is it if you were able to attain riches and you didn't do it in a righteous fashion? That don't make any sense, but people go about it every single day. Let's look at something else, right? Luke 12 and 13. Luke 12 and 13. Just get a little bit of understanding. To make sure your priorities are straight. Because one, you got to remember, if you serve Yah, Yah will provide. You know, he told you in Proverbs 30. You know, Proverbs 30, the gentleman say, don't give me riches, lest I be fool and forget you and say, who of Yah? He said, don't give me poverty, lest I steal and take the name of my Elohim in vain. But give me bread convenient for me. That's what this man asked for in Proverbs 30. And that's something that all of us need to take into account and to consider. Because some people, some of y'all, and that's when I say all, I mean all of us, all people as a whole, we can't deal with money. You're not going to know how to act. You know what I'm saying? And you might forget y'all. Then on the same token, some of y'all don't know this here. I can attest to it. Poverty will make men do things. Some people don't understand that because they've never been poor. You know what I'm saying? Bun B put it this way, you know, poverty will push a nigga over the edge, over the brink, especially if he don't know his ledge. When a man, and with knowing your ledge, and that's because the brother mentioned this here, that's a song that was made by the rap artist Rakim, about know the ledge. And it was about knowing your limit is forth is what it was running these streets. You know what I'm saying? Because if you know you ain't a killer, know your ledge, and don't take your butt out there acting like you no killer, because you don't run the real killer, get your head bust. You know you don't want to go to jail. Don't get you behind out here talking about you want to sell drugs because you're going to jail. You know you don't want to go to jail. You're going to tell everybody. I just heard one of the dudes, Rock from Helter Skelter, talking about it. Said there was a gang. I don't think it's still prevalent in New York City to this day called the Decepticons. You know, it was just a young gang. Say gang started how most gangs start, for protection. Somebody got jumped, and they formed up to get retribution for them getting jumped, and then it spread and it got bigger. And the most thing you find out in most gangs is a lot of dudes in gangs be cornballs and corny when that heat come, because dudes don't be wanting to go to jail and this, that, and the third. Everybody ain't on that. You know what I'm saying? You don't know your ledge. So when that poverty come in, poverty is a lot of times is what make dudes pick them pistols up and go robbing. Poverty is what makes most dudes pick that dope up and go to selling it. Whatever it is. Coke, crack, you know what I'm saying? Meth, weed, you know what I'm saying? Ecstasy, whatever a nigga selling. It usually be poverty that make them do that. Not because they just want to be. Some niggas do want to just be the dope man. But most people is poverty. They see I don't have any other options. I'm starving. My mama can't buy this. I can't buy that. This, that, and the third. And this the option that's in front of them. That's the option that they choose. And then you end up getting riches and not by right. And in the end, you're going to be seen to be a fool. We don't be considering that when we make the moves that we make to get to try to acquire wealth, to try to acquire economic sustenance. You know what I'm saying? And you have to look at that. What's the good of getting the money if you don't get it by doing what's right? What's the good of you acquiring that if you didn't go about it in a righteous fashion? Doesn't make any sense. But we don't be thinking about that because all we caught up in is our lust, and what we want, and what we want, and what we want. Luke 12 and 13. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother that he divide the inheritance with me. He said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or a divider over you? He said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consists not in the abundance of things which he possess. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. He said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater. And there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat and drink, and be merry. But Elohim said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall these things be which thou hast provided? So is he that lay up treasure for himself and is not rich toward Elohim. Now that's something to consider. He said you gathered up all these riches and laid them up for yourself, and Yah killed him. And he's saying this is what's going to happen. That's why he say wherever your heart, your treasure is, your heart will be also. His heart was in the things that were in the earth, and not with Elohim. That's why he say set your affections on the things that be on high and not on the earth. Where Mashiach sit on the right hand of Elohim, where your life is hid in Mashiach, for he is your life. This is causing you to consider and to not let your heart be taken away, because you can't serve Elohim and Mammon. You can't do both, because you're going to love one and hate the other. It's not that you can't do it. Things got to be done with perspective, priorities. Your dreams, your hopes, your goals should not trump the word of Elohim. And a lot of people, that's what happens. He said, seek the kingdom first. He'll add whatever to you. Seek the kingdom in his righteousness. Seek the faith of Elohim. He put that on you. But we don't like to look at that, because that's going to require something of us. And it's going to require sacrifice. A lot of sacrifices that people don't want to make. 1 Timothy chapter 6, pick it up at verse 3. But if you're able to get wealth, the book tell you what to do. Because there were plenty of men in this book who were wealthy. Abraham was wealthy. Isaac was wealthy. Solomon was wealthy. Being wealthy is not a sin. Being wealthy is not a curse. It's the heart of the wealthy person that is the problem. Because wealth in the wrong hands can bring forth great damnation. Not only on itself, but on to others. If any man teach otherwise and consent not the wholesome words, even the words of our master Yahushua HaMashiach, and to the doctrine which is according to godliness, he is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strife of words, wherefore come envy, strife, railings, and evil surmisings. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself. That man say, if you think because you are gaining profit monetarily, you are a man of a perverse and corrupt mind, and you are destitute of faith. Because remember, truth is the might, the firmness, the sound. You are destitute of faith. Destitute of it. And he tell you that we ought not to deal with you, that we ought to withdraw ourselves from you. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. And that take you back to your, let's look at it, Genesis 28. Let's look at your father Jacob, and let's see how godliness with contentment was great gain for him. Praise the Lamb for the word. Praise Yah for the word. Genesis 28 and 20. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if Elohim be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, and so that I come again to my father's house in Shalom, then shall Yahuwah be my Elohim. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be Elohim's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee. Now let's go back over here to Timothy. But it's the point of, look at what Jacob was content with. Having bread and raiment. Having food and raiment, he was content in serving Elohim. That's all he required of him. And that's all we need to sit back and look at it. What is one of the things that the Master say? Let us have our daily bread. As long as you got clothes on your back and you ate, be content. Yahuwah can work out the rest. Let's look at about verse 8. Verse 9 is actually where we at. He say, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and to many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But thou, O man of Elohim, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness, and fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life, whereunto thou art also called, and hast professed a good profession before many witnesses. And that's the key thing that you got to look at, is that some people who get rich, they have the temptation, and it's a trap to them, and those lusts end up taking them down because of that love of money. People always say to mention this verse, but it's the love of money that is the root. Because that root, that love of money is what caused Balaam to go against what Yah told him in the issue with the king of Moab. Because he loved that money, that was the root to cause him to do the evil which he did, caused him to err. Then you can end up getting pierced through with many sorrows because you are loving this, because it's going to be the root cause of any action that you commit, which is why it tells you not to labor to be rich, because of that love for that. Because whatever you love, that's what you serve. Whatever you end your member service to obey, that is to whom you obey. Now, don't take that into account of having a work ethic, to getting up and doing what you got to do to provide for yourself and for your family. It's a totally different scenario. We're talking about the love of money. It's going to be the root cause of most evil that men commit. And I can bear witness to that. I've seen it. I've seen it. Back to Luke 16. Because I've seen people do things out of desperation, a sense of hopelessness. And then I've seen people do something just out of straight greed, which was for the love of that money. Because there is a difference of desperation and hopelessness and greed. Where we at? Luke 16 and 26. Listen where he said, right? And he said, besides all this between us and you, there's a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from this. And that takes us back to what we read in Isaiah 59. Those iniquities caused them to be separated. That rich man was separated from Father Abraham and Lazarus because of his iniquities. Your iniquities will cause you to be separated. Because he lived luxuriously, he was puffed up in his heart, which was clearly going to make him rebellious and hard-hearted, which we are going to see as we go further down in this particular parable. You have to look at that. You got to pay attention to it and just don't be fixed. Oh, that's a rich man. They ain't dealing with me. Then he said, I pray thee, therefore, Father, that thou would send him to my father's house. For I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. He said unto them, If they will not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. Now, those are strong words. Because Abraham telling them, no, let him hear the book. Now, clearly, if he's telling them, let him hear Abraham and the prophets, this rich man is a Hebrew. Clearly, this rich man had an opportunity to hear Moses and the prophets as well and rejected it because that's why he's there. So he was rebellious. He was hard-hearted. Therefore, he could not suffer this witch to live because of his rebellion. Because he refused the word. So in his mind, he's saying, hey, send them to my brother's house so they can know. And he's like, nah, they got the word. Because if they rebel against that, you think somebody, and that's just being real, somebody can rise from the dead right now and tell you about Yahushua HaMashiach right now. They can tell you about Yahuwah right now. And most people are still not going to believe it. Because if you're not going to believe the words written in that book, why would you believe something else? That's what it would take. You couldn't believe him on the strength because he said it? No. So he cannot suffer you to live. This is an example of that. He did not suffer this witch to live because he was rebellious. He rebelled against the word. That's how you end up in hell. That's how you lift up your eyes in torment because you rebelled against the word, like we read in Ezekiel. You would not hear. You would not hear. Look at that, Romans 9. Then we hit Romans 1. We finna get ready. It's 8:30. But I think we done jammed enough. I'm not gonna hold y'all too long. Romans 9, verse 24. Romans 9 and 24. Even us whom he have called, not of the Yahudim only, but also of the Gentiles. As he also say in Hosea, I will call them my people which were not my people, and her beloved which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, You are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living Elohim. Yeshayahu also crieth concerning Yasharal, though the number of the children of Yasharal be as the sand of the sea, a remnant shall be saved. For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because a short work will Yahuwah make upon the earth. And as Yeshayahu said before, except the master of Shabbaoth had left us a seed, we had been as Sodom and had been made like unto Gomorrah. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles which follow not after righteousness have attained to righteousness, even the righteousness which is of faith. Remember that when he said they have not followed after righteousness, that's your Deuteronomy 6 and 25. They hadn't followed after the law, but they achieved the righteousness which is of faith because they believed on Yahuwah. See, a lot of our people are stuck on the righteousness which is of the law and have not obtained the righteousness of faith, which will cause you to be saved, which means if you do not hear Yahushua HaMashiach, he said, whosoever believe not on the son of Elohim is condemned already, because he has not believed the record that Elohim has left of his son. Therefore, you are rebellious, and he cannot allow you to live because the Ruach HaKadosh is given to those who believe on Yahushua HaMashiach and obey him. So without that, you can't attain that gift. And you are a witch. And therefore, he cannot allow you to live. Meaning live forever. Because it said in John chapter 5, the Son quicken whom he will, as the Father quicken whom he will. He said, but Yasharal, which followed after the Torah of righteousness, have not attained to the Torah of righteousness. Wherefore? Because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the Torah, for they stumbled at the stumbling stone. As it is written, Behold, I lie in Zion, the stumbling stone, a rock of offense, and whosoever believe on him shall not be ashamed. And I take you right back to the law in Deuteronomy 32 and 20. He said, these are children of whom have no faith. Even in Psalms, he told you their hearts were not steadfast with his covenant. And that's our problem. This is what Paul meant when he said, if righteousness come by the law, then Mashiach has died for nothing. And that's the part that we miss as coming into this finding out you a brew and all this type of stuff. And Yah's laws are Kadesh and just and good and to be kept all together. But they don't make you righteous though. Not their level of righteousness that'll cause you to attain eternal life. Because he's seeking to see. That man said in Matthew 8, in Luke 18, he said, but will the Son of Man find faith on the earth when he comes? Because a lot of niggas don't believe. Let's just keep it 100. They didn't believe then and they don't believe now. And you thinking because you're keeping some Sabbaths and you put some kufis on your head and you don't eat no pork and you got some fringes on your garment and you got some cultural garb on, that's going to keep you up out of hell. And it's not. And it's not. You think the feast day is going to keep you from up out of there? It's not. Because you haven't attained the righteousness which is of faith. You really don't believe in this man. Oh, you think you waking niggas up because you telling they an Israelite they still in sin. They not woke. They still sleeping. They haven't received any light. Knowing you an Israelite is not light, nigga. You's a clown. You corny if you think that. You's corny if you think that. You are a full-fledged clown if you think that what this is about. Because now you taking the word of Yahuwah and made it about yourself. This word is not about us. If you think it's about us, you a clown. It's about the living Elohim and the mercy and salvation which he showed unto his creation through the death, burial, and resurrection of his son. That's what it's about. It's about the Baruch Elohim, the creator of all things. When will we begin to understand and realize that? He holds our life in the palm of his hands. He has no need of us. We have need of him. When are you going to understand that he didn't choose you because you were righteous? He just told you that. He chose you to perform the covenant that he swore to our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He said, I did not set my love on you because you were the most people. He said, you were the fewest. He said, I got to fulfill my word. It's because I love these three men, not because of you niggas. You niggas been impudent and hard-hearted and rebellious from the moment I met you. That's what Yah said. That's what Yah said. So let's get that. Let's get off our little high horse around this here, right this here, and consider you're not as great as you think you is, especially if you're not completing the living Elohim. Let's make our focus be more about our Elohim, that honor and righteousness is extolled unto his name, and not trying to get shine and light on ourselves. Nevertheless, Romans 1:1. Let's see what that gift was. I've already stated it a couple times, but we called for it, so we might as well read it. Wasn't planning on going that far with Exodus 22 and 18, but hallelujah for Yahushua for it nonetheless, because we finna wrap up in a few. We got a good 45 minutes already in the books. It ain't no sense of trying to just push it just to be pushing it. Paul, a servant of Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of Elohim, which he promised afore by his prophets in the Kadesh scriptures, concerning his son Yahushua HaMashiach, our master, which is made of the seed of David according to the flesh, and declared to be the son of Elohim with power according to the Ruach HaKadosh by the resurrection of the dead. So if you want to be declared to be a son of Elohim yourself, and to receive power with Elohim, then you would need to be resurrected from the dead. Meaning that you were buried with him in immersion to be made in this likeness of his resurrection. Which means that you were obedient and you were humble and you were not rebellious. Therefore, he can allow you to live. I had some other stuff with that, but let's not deal with that. Back to Exodus 22. See if there's any precepts we could catch to just touch and go that are pretty much self-explanatory. And there's a couple. We'll look at verse 19 and we'll stop at verse 20, because verse 20 is a whole nother matter that we got to spend time on. And it ain't no sense of starting it if we can't finish it. Clearly you should know this: whosoever lie with a beast shall surely be put to death. You know full well you ought to be put to death. You around here laying with animals. You's a nasty little buzzard. Nasty little buzzard. But with that being said, hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. We'll stop right there. Everybody understood all that? Anybody got any questions?